Good morning. This is the Wednesday morning update on Hurricane Laura. As always, these thoughts are mine alone, and in making decisions regarding Laura, please refer to your local National Weather Service office, your local officials, and the National Hurricane Center. Okay, so here we have Hurricane Laura here now approaching the Texas-Louisiana border and the surrounding areas here. As you can see, we have a very large hurricane this morning with a very well-defined eye that is rapidly warming. On satellite imagery here, you can start to see the ocean in the eye, and that is indicative of a very intense hurricane here. If we go to recon data, we are finding a very strong hurricane this morning. This has deepened quite a bit here, and we're finding pressures now close to 956 millibars here in the eye. We'll see what the drop zone says here in a minute, but this has been rapidly deepening. You can see the 5 millibar drop in about an hour here per the recon, and this is likely continuing to explode upon us here. This is very, very dangerous. The danger of this hurricane cannot be overstated, and unfortunately this has, evolved into what may be the worst case scenario. If we look at the prolonged evolution of the hurricane as we look at infrared imagery, you can tell a couple of things here. One, that convective bursts have continued to fire around this eye and have tightened the eye wall now to about a 25 nautical mile wide eye. And really, with eyes that are this large and hurricanes that are this large, it's very rare to see a rate of deepening that we are seeing here, because if you remember yesterday, we were looking at a storm that had a pressure of around 983 millibars here, and now it has unfortunately deepened all the way to 956 millibars here, and will likely get lower here. And National Hurricane Center has called for a high-end Category 4 hurricane making landfall somewhere along this portion of coast here as this continues to move off to the northwest. We've really hammered it home here that this is going to be making landfall anywhere between just east of Houston and just to the west of, or just to the east of Cameron, Louisiana here, somewhere in there. But you can see all these hurricane warnings in red here, indicating that hurricane conditions will be well removed. And you can see very clearly here just how large and dangerous this hurricane force wind field is. This is spread out over a very large area. If we look at the peak surge graphic, experimental peak surge graphic by the National Hurricane Center, you can see very high values here along the majority of the southwestern Louisiana Gulf Coast and a little bit into the eastern Texas Gulf Coast here, stretching from Port Bolivar all the way to Intracoastal City here, with values that are likely going to be very devastating, especially along the southwestern Louisiana coastline, ranging from Searim State Park all the way to the Rockefeller Wildlife Refuge, and maybe even further to the east in Intracoastal City here. These areas will likely be inundated with life-threatening and catastrophic storm surge here. You can see the values, 15 to 20 feet here, and 10 to 15 feet here. All of these are above normal tide levels, and this is supposed to be making landfall around high tide here in the early morning hours of Thursday. If we look at, I'm going to show you an elevation map here to show you just how far inland this may go. All of these in red, all of this area in red here is below 10 feet. So if you see the surge that is expected here, you can imagine how far inland this surge will be getting. And if you see how deep this surge will be, 15 to 20 feet in here, this is 5 feet above the ground in this northernmost area right here. So if you are in your evacuation zone here along the southwestern Louisiana coast and into the extreme eastern Texas coastline, you need to be getting to higher ground now. There's not any historical analog here. We're really, you're seeing the worst unfold right before your eyes here as this approaches. There's not really much worse than this. You've never had a hurricane this strong. This is much more powerful than anything you could possibly imagine. And really heed the warnings of your local officials. If you have a mandatory evacuation order on your coastal zone, please heed it. You need to get out now if you have not already. And especially if you are in Port Arthur and Beaumont, you need to be gone, long gone now. And if you're in Lake Charles, you need to be gone. Even Lake Charles could experience 5 feet of inundation well inland here, and you need to be gone. This is a life-threatening, potentially catastrophic situation here along the southwestern Louisiana coastline. We cannot overstate the danger of this hurricane now that this presents. This has a 140-mile wide hurricane force wind radius north to south. This is going to be affecting a massive area here, and even if it, maybe weakens just a little bit because of the southwesterly flow here that you can see hitting these clouds, this is not enough. This is not enough to weaken the storm drastically. The surge values, the waves have already been reported as very staggering. There was a buoy around this area here that was reporting waves of almost 37 feet, and you can imagine if the surge is over these areas, those waves are on top of the surge. So this is going to be very destructive all the way from Port Bolivar all the way into the central Louisiana coastline here. This is going to be very catastrophic. This is going to be a historically bad event here. There is no analog here that really can kind of give you an example of what is going to happen on this coastline. So please heed the local officials in their warnings that they give you, because they mean it when they say you need to be evacuated and you need to be gone, because you will die in this storm surge. The National Hurricane Center literally said in their discussion, unsurvivable storm surge here. So please heed the warnings of your local officials and stay tuned to the latest on your National Weather Service offices, and be prepared for a very rough night here along the southwestern Louisiana coastline all the way into the southeastern Texas coastline here. Please stay safe. Thanks for watching.